Welcome back, everyone, to another explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the absolute chilling mechanics, the literal rules of Indian paranormal folklore, and we're looking at two terrifying real-life accounts from our source material. We're not just swapping campfire ghost stories here, we are breaking down the exact anatomy of a haunting to see how this stuff actually works.
So let's kick things off with the ultimate question, right? What actually triggers an unseen force to just latch onto a person? How does a completely normal, everyday life suddenly spiral into this terrifying battle for survival?
Well, ruch ke badle ruch, a soul for a soul. Just let that sink in for a second. This chilling demand from a possessed victim really perfectly sets the stage for our deep dive today. This isn't about simple jump scares. It's about transactions, it's about energy, and it's about some incredibly severe consequences.
Part 1, the origins. Why do these entities exist?
To really understand a haunting, we've got to understand the entities themselves first, and our source material outlines this totally fascinating divide. Basically, they fall into two distinct camps. On one side, you have unbound spirits. These are entities driven by their own tragic grief. For example, our sources detail a devastating case in Punjab where a young woman was poisoned while trying to elope, and she became trapped at a bus stop, literally bound by her own unfulfilled desires. But then, on the other side, we have bound spirits. These are essentially supernatural assassins. They are weaponized through black magic and usually fueled by nothing but human jealousy and revenge.
Moving on to Section 2, triggers of possession, the breach and vulnerability. Here's the thing. These entities don't just randomly attack you out of nowhere. They need a doorway to get in. Possession absolutely requires a vulnerability. Sometimes it's physical, like an unsuspecting college student named Devansh, who literally ate tainted prasad, a religious sweet offering that his jealous friend had secretly mixed with graveyard ash. Talk about a betrayal. Or the vulnerability can be behavioral. Take the Punjab bus driver we mentioned. He was heavily intoxicated, which the sources point out severely lowers your natural protective aura. And when he encountered the entity at the bus stop, he didn't just quietly leave. He arrogantly mocked it. He challenged it. That arrogance, mixed with the intoxication and intense fear, he basically threw the front door wide open for the entity.
Which brings us to Section 3, symptoms of the supernatural. What possession actually looks like.
Once that breach actually happens, the physical and psychological toll on the victim is pretty immediate, and honestly, it's terrifying. Looking at Devansh's timeline, you can practically see the curse tightening its grip. It escalates so fast. Day 1, he eats the tainted sweet. By day 3, he's dealing with severe sleep paralysis and seeing shadows. Fast forward to day 10, and invisible forces are literally hurling him against the walls of his dorm room. This is what it looks like when bound entities just completely overwhelm a human host.
And you know what's wild? The bus driver from Punjab exhibited these exact same kinds of symptoms after he crossed paths with that tragic female spirit. His behavior completely flipped. He started dancing on rooftops at 1:30 in the morning, crawling up the stairs like an animal, and eating these massive packets of raw, dry rusks. But the craziest part? He started speaking in a woman's voice and dressing in women's clothing. The female entity's unfulfilled desires were literally overriding his own identity.
So, how does a literal hijacking like that even work? Well, the Gurujis in the source material explain that the entity literally sits on the victim's chakras. It's like a supernatural short circuit. If an entity attaches to your crown chakra, it totally scrambles your normal brain function and wisdom, which makes you behave erratically. If it sits on your throat chakra, it hijacks your vocal cords. That completely explains the sudden foul language and the completely altered voices.
Part 4, the dark arts, weaponizing the unseen.
We've seen what happens with a tragic, unbound spirit, right? But what happens when the possession is totally intentional, driven by human malice? In Devansh's case, his supposed friend Ritik weaponized a sweet using shamshani rock, graveyard ash. Ritik used this to essentially hand Devansh a supernatural death sentence. He sent 10 dark entities after him, all just to steal his girlfriend. It's incredibly calculated and malicious. Contrast that with the unbound spirits. They often have these incredibly heartbreaking motivations. The Punjab bus stop Chudail, that tragic, trapped spirit, she only possessed the driver because his upcoming wedding triggered her own unresolved trauma. She wasn't sent by some dark magician. She was just a broken soul screaming out, "I never got to have my wedding, so I won't let you have yours." Section 5. The exorcism rituals. Fighting back. So how do you actually fight back against something you can't even see? The source material breaks down two totally different approaches.
For Devansh, because he was attacked by 10 weaponized entities, it was a literal war. They performed this intense Maha Uttara ritual. He had to be physically tied to a sacred peepal tree. The Guruji is blasting powerful mantras, forcing Devansh to literally purge this dark energy into a brass pot, a pito lota, which is then immediately buried to trap the entities under the tree. But for unbound spirits, like our tragic bus stop ghost, the steps are completely different. It's way less about combat and a lot more about dialogue. The healer used a cleansing spray of gangajal and black salt, but the real key was cutting a lemon while maintaining direct eye contact with the possessed driver and just listening to her. The healer acknowledged her pain, let her tell the story about being poisoned, and honestly, that acknowledgement alone was enough to peacefully release her hold on the man.
But jumping back to Devansh's dark magic curse, it took a grueling 6 hours. 6 hours! Think about that. 6 hours of being tied to that peepal tree, physically fighting against invisible forces, for him to finally be purged of the dark magic. It really shows you the sheer physical toll these rituals demand of a person. And that leads us right into our final section, Part 6, the final reckoning, the boomerang effect. Because here is the absolute catch in the realm of the paranormal. Energy cannot just be destroyed. It has to go somewhere. In a totally fascinating and honestly kind of absurd twist, Devansh's Guruji sent a helper out to track the spellcaster, Ritik, down to a local cafe. But the Guruji didn't use some ancient relic to fight back. He literally snatched Ritik's discarded, half-empty cold coffee cup. He then used that everyday physical connection to bargain with the 10 trapped entities, basically offering them Ritik's soul instead, successfully redirecting the curse straight back to the sender. And this right here perfectly illustrates the ultimate unbreakable rule of these dark arts, the boomerang effect. Devansh gets to go home and sleep peacefully for 48 hours straight, completely free at last. But Ritik, the curse he sent out returns to him tenfold. He completely loses his mind. People literally saw him hunting live animals in the streets, and within a week, he falls to his death. The energy always finds a host. The source material leaves us with this incredibly grounded yet terrifyingly real moral. बुराई करने वालों के साथ अक्सर बुरा ही होता है. Bad things often happen to those who do bad things. It's a stark, undeniable warning about the irreversible consequences of playing around with dark forces. So, I want to leave you all with this final provocative thought. We've seen exactly how arrogance, extreme fear, and dark jealousy are the literal mechanisms that invite these forces in. If our own vulnerabilities are the very doors through which these entities enter, what unseen forces are you leaving your door unlocked for right now? Stay safe, stay mindful, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.